The dust hung thick in the air as Olivia Montgomery staggered forward, her throat parched and her legs trembling beneath her. The merciless June sun of 1876 beat down upon her sun-blistered shoulders, but she refused to falter. Not now. Not when little Emma's life depended on it. The 6-month-old baby whimpered against her hip, tiny fingers clutching desperately at Olivia's tattered calico dress. As they stood in the middle of the desolate Montana road miles from anywhere that might resemble civilization. "Hush now, sweet girl," Olivia whispered, bouncing the infant gently despite the leaden exhaustion in her arms. "Someone will come. Someone must come." 3 days since the stagecoach robbery. 3 days since she'd watched her traveling companions murdered by masked bandits. 3 days of walking, hiding, and praying that somehow they would survive. The distant thunder of hoofbeats made her heart stutter. Friend or foe? In this untamed territory, one could never be certain. Olivia clutched her baby tighter, considering whether to flee into the scrubby brush alongside the road. But exhaustion made the decision for her. She simply couldn't run anymore. A lone rider appeared over the rise, tall in the saddle, his face shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat. Olivia swallowed hard, holding her ground as the massive chestnut stallion slowed to a walk. The rider's eyes, sharp as a hawk's, took in her bedraggled appearance, lingering on the baby balanced precariously on her hip. "Madam," he said simply, his voice like gravel. Dust coated his leather vest and denim trousers. A 6-shooter hung low on his hip, and a Winchester rifle was secured to his saddle. "Please," Olivia began, her voice cracking. "We need help." The cowboy dismounted in one fluid motion, revealing his impressive height. He approached cautiously, as if she were a spooked filly, and offered his canteen. "Jack Xavier," he introduced himself, watching as she gulped down water before offering some to the fussing infant. "Where'd you come from? Nearest town's 30 miles back." "Stagecoach robbery," Olivia managed between sips. 3 days ago, everyone else was killed. I grabbed Emma and ran." His weathered face hardened. "Dalton gang's been hitting stages all through this territory." His eyes softened as they fell on the baby. "Your daughter," Olivia hesitated. "My sisters. She and her husband were traveling with me from Boston. They didn't—" Her voice broke. "I'm all Emma has now." Jack nodded once, decision made. He capped the canteen and returned to his horse, adjusting the saddle. "You'll ride beside me from now on," he declared, the words not a question but a statement of fact. "Can't leave a woman and baby out here for the Buzzards or the Daltons." "I don't even know you," Olivia protested weakly, though relief flooded through her veins. Jack Xavier's face remained impassive, but something in his eyes, a flicker of decency, perhaps gave her courage. "I'm heading to Silverdale. Got a small ranch 5 miles outside town. You can rest up there until you figure out your next move." He mounted his horse with ease, then reached down. "Hand me the little one first." Fear must have shown on Olivia's face because he added, "I've got 5 nieces and nephews, madam. Baby's safe with me." With trembling arms, Olivia passed Emma upward. The cowboy cradled the infant against his chest with surprising tenderness. Then he extended his hand again, pulling Olivia up behind him with one powerful arm. "Hold tight to me," he instructed. "It's a long ride ahead." As the horse began to move, Olivia wrapped her arms around Jack's solid waist, feeling the steady rhythm of his breathing. Emma, remarkably, had quieted against his chest. "Thank you," she whispered, not certain he could hear her over the hoofbeats. But he had. "Just doing what any decent man would," Jack replied, though they both knew that decent men were increasingly rare treasures in this wild frontier. The Montana landscape stretched endlessly before them as they rode westward, the vast emptiness both terrifying and beautiful. Olivia felt the exhaustion of the past 3 days crashing over her, and despite her best efforts, her head eventually dropped forward against Jack Xavier's broad back as sleep claimed her. Jack felt the exact moment when the woman's body went slack against him, her arms loosening slightly around his waist. He shifted, ensuring she wouldn't slip off, while cradling the baby more securely against his chest. The infant girl stared up at him with wide blue eyes, oddly calm given the circumstances. "Your aunt's a brave one," he murmured to the baby. "Surviving out here alone with you, that takes grit." The miles passed beneath his horse's steady hooves as Jack considered the complication that had just entered his carefully ordered life. He'd been alone since returning from the war, preferring the solitude of his small ranch to the chaos of human entanglements. Yet here he was with a woman and a baby literally riding alongside him. The sun was beginning its descent when Olivia stirred against his back. "Where are we?" she asked, voice thick with sleep. "About 10 miles from my place. You've been out for hours." She straightened, embarrassed. "I'm sorry, I haven't slept properly since." "No need for apologies," Jack cut in. "Baby's been good as gold, hungry though, I'd wager." As if on cue, Emma began to fuss. Olivia reached around to take her, awkwardly trying to balance the infant while keeping her seat on the horse. "There's a creek up ahead," Jack said. "We'll stop, let you both rest proper before the final stretch." The creek bubbled clear and sweet between grassy banks, a rare blessing in the dusty landscape. Jack dismounted first, then helped Olivia down, noticing how she winced as her feet touched the ground. "Blisters?" he asked, nodding toward her city boots not made for the miles she'd walked. "I'll manage," she replied, that stubborn tilt returning to her chin. Jack said nothing, but made a mental note to tend to her feet before they continued. He unsaddled his horse, letting the animal drink and graze while he unpacked jerky, hardtack, and the last of his dried apples. Olivia settled on the creek bank, baby Emma nursing hungrily beneath a discreet blanket. Jack kept his distance, giving them privacy as he built a small fire. "I never asked your name," he realized aloud, breaking the comfortable silence that had fallen between them. Olivia Montgomery." She hesitated. "I was a schoolteacher in Boston. My sister Charlotte and her husband invited me west. They'd inherited land near Helena." Her voice caught. "They wanted to build a new life for Emma away from the city." Jack nodded. "Montana territory ain't easy, but it's got possibilities for those tough enough." "And are you tough enough?" A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "Some days, others, I wonder what fool notion brought me out here instead of back to Pennsylvania where I started. The war." She guessed, surprising him with her perception. Jack stared into the fire. "Saw enough back east to last lifetimes, came west thinking wide open spaces might scrub the memories clean." He shrugged. "Some days it works." Emma had finished nursing, and Olivia repositioned her against her shoulder, patting the tiny back until a soft burp emerged. The domestic scene struck Jack as strangely affecting something he'd never thought to see in his Spartan existence. "We should get your feet seen to," he said abruptly, rising. "Sun'll be setting soon." He knelt before her with a dampened kerchief and a small tin of salve he kept for his own trail-worn skin. Olivia hesitated, then extended her feet toward him after removing her boots. The blisters were angry and raw, some broken and oozing. "You walked on these for 3 days?" he asked, genuine admiration in his voice. "I didn't have much choice," she replied simply. Gently, Jack cleaned each blister before applying the salve with calloused fingertips. Olivia winced but didn't pull away, and he found himself admiring her fortitude. Boston schoolteachers, in his limited experience, weren't known for their physical toughness. "Thank you," she murmured when he finished. "For everything." Jack nodded once, uncomfortable with gratitude. "We'd best get moving if we want to reach the ranch before full dark." The remainder of the journey passed in comfortable silence, broken only by Emma's occasional cooing or fussing. As they crested the final rise, Jack's modest homestead came into view, a sturdy cabin with a small barn and corral, backed by rolling pasture where a dozen cattle grazed. Smoke curled from the chimney. "You have someone here?" Olivia asked, surprised. "Old Henry," Jack explained. "Works for me part-time, keeps an eye on things when I'm away." He glanced back at her. "He's harmless, talks to himself more than others, but he's loyal." A weathered man with a silver beard emerged from the barn as they approached, his eyebrows rising at the sight of Olivia and the baby. "Found yourself some trouble, did you, Jack?" he called, though his tone was good-natured. "Found folks needing help," Jack corrected, dismounting before helping Olivia down. "Miss Montgomery, this is Henry Blackwell. Henry, Miss Olivia Montgomery, and little Emma." Henry tipped his hat. "Madam." "Little miss." His eyes crinkled kindly. "Been a mighty long time since we had womenfolk at Xavier's place." "They'll be staying a while," Jack said, his tone brooking no argument. Stagecoach robbery, understanding dawned in Henry's weathered face. "Dalton's again," Jack nodded grimly. "Reckon so." "I'll ready the spare room," Henry said, already turning toward the cabin. "Got stew on the stove, too." Olivia stood uncertainly, the baby growing heavy in her arms. The reality of her situation was setting in. She was utterly dependent on the kindness of this taciturn cowboy and his odd companion. "I don't want to impose," she began. "Perhaps there's a town where nearest proper town with a hotel is Silverdale, and that's another day's ride," Jack interrupted. "And they'd ask questions there you might not want to answer yet." His eyes met hers steadily. "You're safe here, Miss Montgomery." "On my word." Something in his direct gaze made her believe him. Olivia nodded once. "For a few days, then, until I can make proper arrangements." Jack's lips quirked in what might have been a smile. "Few days it is." The cabin was simple but clean. With solid furniture Jack had clearly built himself. A fire crackled in the stone hearth, and the aroma of Henry's stew made Olivia's stomach growl embarrassingly. The spare room was small but contained a proper bed with fresh linens and a wooden cradle that looked recently dusted. "The cradle was my sister's," Henry explained, noting her surprise. "Her boy's grown now, riding with the Montana Rangers. Kept it thinking someone might need it someday." He smiled at Emma. "Guess that day's come." After the most satisfying meal Olivia had eaten in days, she bathed Emma in a basin of warm water Henry provided, then settled the exhausted baby in the cradle. Her own body ached for rest, but her mind whirled with questions and uncertainties. What would become of them now? How could she provide for Emma? Where would they go? A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Miss Montgomery, brought you some clean clothes," Jack's voice came through the wood. "My sister left some things last time she visited. Might be big on you, but they're clean." Olivia opened the door, accepting the folded bundle with a grateful smile. "Your sister visits often?" "Twice a year or so. She's in Bozeman with her family." He shifted, uncomfortable with the personal question. "Sleep well, Miss Montgomery." "You're safe here." As he turned to leave, Olivia impulsively caught his sleeve. "Mr. Xavier, Jack, I don't know how to thank you properly." His expression softened marginally. "No thanks needed, just get some rest." After he'd gone, Olivia changed into the borrowed nightgown, marveling at the feel of clean fabric against her skin. As she slipped between the sheets, her last conscious thought was of Jack Xavier's unexpected gentleness as he'd tended her blistered feet. Morning came with the crowing of a rooster and the unfamiliar sounds of a working ranch. Olivia woke disoriented, then remembered the events of the previous day. Emma still slept peacefully in the cradle, tiny fists curled beside her face. For the first time in days, Olivia allowed herself a moment of grief for her sister and brother-in-law. Charlotte had been her only family, and now she was gone, leaving Olivia responsible for the precious life sleeping beside her. A soft tap at the door preceded Henry's voice. "Miss. Coffee's hot when you're ready. Jack's already out with the herd." Olivia dressed quickly in the clothes Jack had provided, a simple skirt and blouse that hung loosely on her slender frame. She secured her hair as best she could, lifted the now awake Emma, and made her way to the kitchen where Henry was frying bacon. "Morning, madam," he greeted cheerfully. "Little ones sleep well, like an angel," Olivia confirmed, settling at the rough-hewn table with Emma in her lap. "Mr. Blackwell, I'm afraid I know very little about your employer. Is he? I mean, what sort of man is he?" Henry chuckled, sliding a plate of bacon and eggs before her. Jack Xavier's the most honorable man in 3 territories, miss. Fought with distinction in the war, came west looking for peace. Keeps to himself mostly, but he's fair and decent. He seems solitary, Olivia observed, accepting the coffee Henry poured. War changed him like it did many men, lost his brother at Gettysburg. Henry sat across from her. But he's got a good heart. Wouldn't have brought you here otherwise. Olivia digested this information as she ate, grateful for the hot meal and Henry's friendly chatter. The old man seemed delighted to have someone new to talk to, regaling her with stories of the area and its inhabitants. Town's growing, he told her. Got a proper school now, though teacher left last month. Married a cattle buyer from Helena. He eyed her speculatively. You being a school teacher and all. I couldn't possibly, Olivia began, then stopped herself. She needed employment and teaching was what she knew. Perhaps, she amended. Once I've settled Emma's situation. Henry nodded approvingly. Silverdale could use a good teacher, and that little one would have a proper home. The idea took root in Olivia's mind as she helped Henry with the morning chores, learning the rhythm of ranch life. By midday, when Jack returned for dinner, she had a tentative plan forming. Jack entered the cabin, removing his hat and running a hand through sweat-dampened hair. He stopped short at the sight of Olivia at his stove, Emma contentedly playing on a blanket nearby. Miss Montgomery, he greeted, surprise evident in his voice. You didn't need to cook. It seemed the least I could do, she replied. Henry showed me where everything was kept. The old ranch hand winked at Jack from his seat by the fire. Ladies a natural in the kitchen, boss. Makes your cooking look like horse feed. Jack's lips twitched. That wouldn't be difficult. He crossed to the wash basin, scrubbing trail dust from his hands and face. How are your feet today? Much improved, thank you. Olivia turned from the stove, a newfound confidence in her bearing. Mr. Xavier, I've been thinking about my situation. Jack dried his hands, giving her his full attention. Henry mentioned Silverdale needs a teacher. I'd like to apply for the position. She squared her shoulders. I have experience, references in my trunk if it can be recovered from the stagecoach, and I need to provide for Emma. Jack considered her words. Town council handles hiring. Jedediah warns the chairman, I can take you to see him tomorrow. Relief washed over Olivia's features. Thank you. I don't want to be a burden on your kindness any longer than necessary. Something flickered across Jack's face, quickly masked. You're no burden, Miss Montgomery. The meal passed pleasantly, with even Jack contributing to the conversation occasionally. Olivia noticed how his stern features softened when Emma grasped his finger during a rare smile, and how efficiently he handled the baby when Olivia needed to clear the table. You're good with her, she observed. Told you. 5 nieces and nephews. He bounced Emma gently. My sister made sure I knew how to help when I visited. Later, as dusk settled over the ranch, Olivia sat on the porch, Emma asleep against her shoulder. The vastness of Montana stretched before her, purple mountains silhouetted against the fading light. Jack joined her, offering a mug of coffee. Beautiful, isn't it? She murmured. It has its moments. He settled into the chair beside her. Miss Montgomery, there's something you should know before we ride to town tomorrow. The seriousness in his tone made her turn toward him. What is it? The Dalton gang doesn't leave witnesses, he said bluntly. If they learn you survived the robbery, they'll come looking. Especially if you can identify them. Fear clutched at Olivia's heart. I saw their faces when their bandanas slipped. 3 men, she shuddered. The leader had a scar across his cheek. Jack nodded grimly. Ezra Dalton, meanest of the bunch. He stared into the gathering darkness. In town, we'll need to be careful what we say about how you came to be here. You think they have informants in Silverdale? Daltons have eyes and ears everywhere in this territory. His gaze was steady. We'll say you're my cousin from back east. Widowed, came to help with the ranch for a spell. The intimacy of the fiction, the implied connection between them made heat rise to Olivia's cheeks. Would anyone believe that? You and I are hardly similar. A rare smile touched Jack's lips. Folks around here know better than to question a man's business, especially mine. That night, Olivia lay awake long after settling Emma, contemplating the unexpected turn her life had taken. 3 days ago, she'd been a proper Boston schoolteacher traveling west with her sister's family. Now she was alone, responsible for an infant, dependent on a stranger's kindness and apparently in danger from ruthless outlaws. Yet beneath her anxiety, a strange sense of possibility bloomed. For the first time in her 24 years, Olivia Montgomery was charting her own course. The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. Morning brought renewed determination. Olivia dressed in the most presentable of the borrowed clothes, arranged her hair neatly, and prepared Emma for the journey to town. Jack appeared at breakfast in a clean shirt, his usually untamed hair slicked back with water. "Looking quite respectable, Mr. Xavier," Henry teased. "Must be town day." Jack ignored the jibe, though Olivia noticed a slight coloring at the back of his neck. "Wagon's ready whenever you are, Miss Montgomery." The ride to Silverdale took nearly 2 hours, the wagon jolting over rutted roads. Olivia held Emma securely, occasionally stealing glances at Jack's profile as he handled the team with quiet competence. He'd strapped on his sidearm and placed the Winchester with an easy-reach precautions that reminded Olivia of the dangers lurking in this seemingly peaceful landscape. "Remember," Jack said as the first buildings of Silverdale appeared ahead, "you're Olivia Xavier, my cousin from Pennsylvania. Your husband died of fever back east. You came west for a fresh start." "And Emma?" Olivia asked. "Your daughter?" His eyes met hers briefly. "Simpler that way." Silverdale was larger than Olivia had expected, a proper frontier town with a main street boasting a hotel, general store, saloon, and various other establishments. A white church steeple rose at one end, a schoolhouse visible just beyond. People moved purposefully along the boardwalks, pausing to watch as Jack's wagon rolled past. "They're staring," Olivia whispered. "New face is big news in Silverdale," Jack replied. "Especially one arriving with me." He pulled the wagon to a stop outside a building marked Warren Mercantile, helping Olivia down with a solicitous hand that lingered perhaps a moment longer than necessary. The touch sent an unexpected warmth through her, quickly dismissed as they entered the store. Jedediah Warren proved to be a portly, genial man with shrewd eyes that assessed Olivia carefully as Jack made introductions, maintaining their agreed-upon fiction. "A schoolteacher, you say? Trained proper?" Warren's interest was immediate. "Our last teacher left us in the lurch, and 30 children are running wild with no education to speak of. I taught for 5 years at the Pembroke Academy for Young Ladies in Boston," Olivia confirmed. "I have references, though my belongings were delayed in transit." Warren waved away her concern. "Jack Xavier's word is good enough for me. If he says you're qualified, I believe it." He eyed Emma, nestled against Olivia's shoulder. "The child might complicate matters, though." "Emma is well-behaved and quiet," Olivia assured him. "She'll not disrupt the classroom." Warren considered this. "School board meets tomorrow evening. Can you come present yourself then? Salary's $40 a month with lodging in the rooms above the schoolhouse." Relief flooded through Olivia. "That would be most agreeable, Mr. Warren." "Thank you." As they concluded their business, the mercantile's door opened, admitting a well-dressed man whose eyes narrowed at the sight of Jack. "Xavier," he acknowledged coolly. "Unusual to see you in town." "Merrick," Jack returned, equally frigid. "Just introducing my cousin to Mr. Warren." "She's applying for the teaching position." The man's calculating gaze shifted to Olivia. "Marshall Merrick, madam, own the Silver Strike mine outside town." He removed his hat, revealing silver-streaked dark hair. "A pleasure to make your acquaintance." "Olivia Xavier," she replied, using her assumed identity. "And my daughter, Emma. A widow, I understand. My condolences." Merrick's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Silverdale could certainly use a woman of refinement. I hope you'll consider attending our town social next weekend." Jack's jaw tightened visibly. "We should be going, Olivia. Henry will be wondering where we got to." Outside, Olivia waited until they were in the wagon before asking, "What was that about?" "The tension between you and Mr. Merrick was palpable." Jack's hands gripped the reins tightly. "Marshal Merrick and I have history. He tried to buy my land 2 years ago, wouldn't take no for an answer, then my north pasture mysteriously caught fire." His expression darkened. "No proof it was him, but he seemed quite interested in making my acquaintance," Olivia observed. "Merrick collects people the way some men collect horses, especially those he thinks might be useful." Jack glanced at her. "Be careful around him." They completed their errands in town, purchasing supplies, arranging for the recovery of Olivia's trunk from the stagecoach company, and visiting the sheriff to discreetly inquire about the Dalton gang's recent activities. Sheriff Mills confirmed the stagecoach robbery, but was surprised to hear of survivors. "Official reports said all passengers killed," he told them, scratching his graying beard. "Companies offering a reward for information leading to recovery of the mail pouch." "Best keep Miss Montgomery's survival quiet for now," Jack suggested. "Until the Daltons are caught," the sheriff agreed, promising to send word if he heard anything useful. Their final stop was the town's small dress shop, where Jack insisted on purchasing fabric for new clothes for both Olivia and Emma. "Jack, this is too generous," Olivia protested as the shopkeeper wrapped brown paper around the parcels. "I can't accept. Consider it an advance on your teaching salary," he interrupted. "Can't have Silverdale's new schoolmistress dressed in borrowed clothes." His tone brooked no argument. The ride back to the ranch was quiet, both lost in their thoughts as the wagon creaked along the dusty road. Emma slept peacefully, lulled by the motion. The comfortable silence between them spoke of a growing ease in each other's company that surprised Olivia. For a man who valued solitude, Jack Xavier had readily accommodated her presence in his life. "Thank you," she said finally as the ranch came into view, "for everything today, for maintaining our fiction." Jack's eyes remained on the road ahead. "Warren's a good man, but he's also the biggest gossip in 3 counties. Story we told will be all over Silverdale by sundown." "Does that bother you, having your name linked with mine?" His hands stilled on the reins. "Does it bother you?" The question hung between them, weighted with unspoken implications. Olivia considered her answer carefully. "No," she said finally. "I find I'm rather grateful for the protection your name provides." Jack nodded once, seemingly satisfied. "Good, because that protection might be needed before this business with the Daltons is finished." The next week established a routine at the Xavier Ranch. Olivia presented herself to the school board, who hired her immediately, though she wouldn't begin teaching until the following month when the new term started. In the meantime, she settled into life at the ranch with surprising ease, helping with cooking and household tasks while caring for Emma. Jack, for his part, found himself increasingly distracted by his houseguest. He'd catch himself watching the graceful movement of her hands as she kneaded bread dough, or the way sunlight caught in her auburn hair when she sat on the porch in the evenings. Emma, too, had worked her way into his carefully guarded heart, her toothless smiles and determined attempts to crawl providing unexpected entertainment. One evening, after Emma had been put to bed, Jack found Olivia on the porch, staring at the star-filled sky. He hesitated, then joined her, offering a mug of coffee. "Penny for your thoughts," he said, settling into the chair beside her. "I was thinking about Charlotte, my sister," Olivia admitted. "Today would have been her birthday." She sipped the coffee. "She always wanted to see the stars out west." Said Boston's lights dimmed the night sky. "She was right about that," Jack agreed. "Nothing between us and the heavens out here. I keep wondering if I'm doing the right thing, staying here, I mean, taking the teaching position." She turned troubled eyes to him. "What if I'm not strong enough for this place?" Jack considered her question seriously. "Montana doesn't measure strength by how hard you can swing an axe, Miss Montgomery. It's about endurance, facing each day with the same resolve you had the day before." His voice softened. You walked for 3 days on blistered feet, carrying a baby after watching your family die. I'd say you've got the right kind of strength." His words wrapped around her like a warm blanket, comforting in their simple truth. "Thank you for that," she murmured. They sat in companionable silence until Olivia asked, "Will you tell me about your brother? Henry mentioned you lost him at Gettysburg." Pain flickered across Jack's features, but he didn't deflect the question as she'd half expected. Thomas was 2 years younger. "Better than me in every way that mattered, kinder, smarter." A sad smile touched his lips. "We joined up together in '61, promised our mother we'd look after each other." "What happened?" Olivia asked gently. "Second day at Gettysburg. We were holding a position on Cemetery Ridge when the Confederate artillery opened up." Jack's eyes grew distant. "Thomas was right beside me 1 minute, gone the next, never even heard the shell that took him." Olivia reached out impulsively, covering his hand with hers. "I'm so sorry, Jack." He stared at their joined hands, then slowly turned his palm upward, enfolding her fingers within his. The simple touch conveyed more than words could express shared grief, understanding, and perhaps something more tender beginning to take root. The moment was broken by Emma's cry from inside the cabin. Olivia withdrew her hand reluctantly. "I should check on her." Jack nodded, watching her disappear inside. He remained on the porch long after, contemplating the unfamiliar warmth that had bloomed in his chest at Olivia's touch. The following days brought increasing comfort between them. Jack found reasons to delay his usual dawn to dusk work with the cattle, returning to the cabin for midday meals or offering to show Olivia the property boundaries. For her part, Olivia discovered a previously unknown interest in ranch operations, asking thoughtful questions about cattle breeding and land management that impressed Jack with her quick intelligence. Emma thrived in the mountain air, her baby babbles and attempts at mobility bringing unexpected joy to the previously quiet cabin. Even Henry seemed rejuvenated by their presence, whistling as he went about his chores and volunteering to watch Emma when Olivia needed time to prepare her school lessons. The idyllic rhythm was disrupted one afternoon when Jack returned early, his expression grim. He found Olivia hanging laundry behind the cabin, Emma playing on a blanket nearby. "Pack your things," he said without preamble. "We need to leave for town immediately." Alarm shot through Olivia. "What's happened?" "Daltons were spotted 15 miles south," Jack explained tersely. "Moving this direction. Sheriff sent word." He glanced at Emma. "You'll be safer in town until they're captured or move on." "But the school term doesn't start for 2 more weeks," Olivia protested. "The teachers' quarters probably aren't ready. You'll stay at the hotel." Jack was already gathering Emma's blanket. "I've arranged it with the owner. He's discreet." Within the hour, they were on the road to Silverdale, the wagon loaded with their essential belongings. Olivia held Emma close, anxiety making her stomach churn. The peaceful existence she'd begun to envision seemed suddenly precarious. "Will you stay in town as well?" she asked as the outskirts of Silverdale appeared. Jack shook his head. "Can't leave the ranch undefended. Henry's too old to handle trouble alone." He glanced at her reassuringly. "Sheriff Mills will keep an eye on you, and I'll check in every few days." The Silver Spur Hotel was modest but clean, with a private dining room and a motherly proprietress who cooed over Emma. Jack carried their bags to a second-floor room, his eyes carefully scanning the surroundings for any sign of trouble. "Lock your door at night," he instructed. "Don't tell anyone why you're in town early. Far as anyone knows, you're just eager to settle into your teaching position." Olivia nodded, trying to hide her apprehension. "How long do you think this danger will last?" "Daltons don't usually linger in one area," Jack replied. "Too risky, but they are unpredictable." He hesitated, then added, "I'll have Henry bring your trunk when it arrives from the stage office." As he turned to leave, Olivia caught his arm impulsively. "Be careful, Jack, please." Something softened in his weathered face. "Always am." He surprised her by briefly touching her cheek with calloused fingers. "Stay safe, Olivia." After he'd gone, Olivia sat on the edge of the hotel bed, Emma crawling beside her, and tried to make sense of her jumbled emotions. In just 2 weeks, Jack Xavier had become far more than a rescuer or reluctant host. He'd become someone whose safety mattered deeply to her. Someone whose touch could make her heart race. "Oh, Charlotte," she whispered to her departed sister. "What am I getting myself into?" The days in Silverdale passed slowly. Olivia occupied herself by preparing the schoolhouse for the upcoming term, cleaning the dusty classroom and organizing the meager supplies. The teachers' quarters above proved to be a simple 2-room apartment, small but adequate for her and Emma. News of the Dalton gang filtered through town in fragments. They'd robbed a ranch south of town, then a mail coach. Sheriff Mills organized a posse, but the outlaws remained elusive, always one step ahead of pursuit. Jack sent brief notes with Henry, assuring Olivia of his well-being and inquiring after hers. But he didn't come to town himself, a precaution Olivia understood but increasingly resented. A week into her stay, Marshal Merrick appeared at the schoolhouse door as Olivia was arranging desks. "Miss Xavier," he greeted, removing his hat. "Settling in nicely, I see, Mr. Merrick," Olivia acknowledged, unconsciously straightening her spine. "Yes, thank you. I've brought a small contribution for your classroom." He presented a package wrapped in brown paper. "Books from my personal library. Classics, mostly Shakespeare, Dickens, a bit of poetry." Surprised by the thoughtful gift, Olivia accepted the package. "That's very generous, sir. The children will benefit greatly," Merrick smiled, revealing perfect teeth. "I've always believed in the power of education. My late wife was a teacher, you know." His expression turned wistful. "She would have approved of your dedication." Despite Jack's warnings about the man, Olivia found herself warming slightly to Merrick's charm. "Will you be attending the school board meeting next week? I plan to present my curriculum for approval." "Wouldn't miss it," Merrick assured her. He glanced around the classroom. "I understand you're staying at the hotel until term begins. Please allow me to escort you to dinner this evening." "The cafe serves a decent steak on Wednesdays." Olivia hesitated, remembering Jack's caution. "That's very kind, but Emma requires my attention in the evenings." "Bring the child, of course," Merrick insisted. "I'm fond of children, had none of my own, unfortunately." He checked his pocket watch. "Shall we say 6 o'clock? I'll call for you at the hotel." Before Olivia could formulate another refusal, Merrick tipped his hat and departed, leaving her flustered by his smooth persistence. She resolved to decline politely when he arrived at the hotel, but fate intervened in the form of a summer thunderstorm that confined her indoors that afternoon. When Merrick appeared promptly at 6, umbrella in hand and a carriage waiting outside, refusing his escort seemed both impractical and ungracious. The cafe was busy but pleasant, with checkered tablecloths and generous portions. Emma, dressed in her best gown, behaved admirably, cooing at the other diners and accepting small bites of mashed potatoes from Olivia's plate. Merrick proved an entertaining companion, regaling Olivia with stories of Silverdale's early days and his adventures establishing the Silver Strike mine. "Your cousin seems to have taken good care of you," he observed as they finished their meal. "Jack Xavier isn't known for his hospitality." "He's been very kind," Olivia replied carefully. "I'm grateful for his assistance while I establish myself here." Merrick's eyes narrowed slightly. "Curious that he never mentioned family back east before your arrival." The implied suspicion made Olivia's pulse quicken. "Jack is a private person. We weren't particularly close growing up." "Indeed," Merrick smiled, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Well, Silverdale welcomes you, regardless of your connections. I hope you'll allow me to introduce you to our small social circle. The mining families host regular gatherings, nothing fancy, but civilized company." "That's very kind," Olivia murmured, relieved when Emma began fussing, providing an excuse to end the evening. As Merrick escorted them back to the hotel through the rain-slicked streets, Olivia couldn't shake a growing unease. His questions about Jack had been too pointed. his interest in her too immediate for simple neighborliness. She resolved to be more cautious in future interactions. Her caution proved warranted the following morning when she encountered Sheriff Mills outside the general store. "Miss Xavier," he greeted, touching his hat brim. "Settling in all right?" "Yes, thank you, Sheriff," Olivia replied, adjusting Emma on her hip. "Any news of the Dalton gang?" Mills glanced around before responding quietly. "Nothing definite, but I'd advise caution, madam. Word travels fast in small towns, and you've attracted notice." "What do you mean?" "Marshal Merrick was asking particular questions about you yesterday." Mills scratched his mustache uncomfortably. "Wanted to know how you came to Silverdale, whether your story about being Jack's cousin checked out." Alarm shot through Olivia. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing to worry about," Mills assured her. "Said I don't make a habit of questioning honest citizens about their family connections." He lowered his voice further. "But Merrick's got a nose for secrets, and he and Xavier have bad blood between them. Just watch yourself, madam." Olivia nodded, clutching Emma tighter. "Thank you for the warning, Sheriff." That evening, a knock at her hotel room door startled Olivia. She approached cautiously, Emma already asleep in the small trundle bed. "Who is it?" she called softly. "Jack." Relief flooded through her as she unbolted the door. Jack Xavier stood in the hallway, hat in hand, his expression uncharacteristically troubled. "You shouldn't be here," Olivia whispered, even as she stepped back to admit him. "What if someone sees you?" "Had to come," Jack replied, closing the door behind him. "Henry said Merrick's been sniffing around you." Olivia sighed, gesturing for him to sit. "We had dinner yesterday, he was." Persistent in his invitation, Jack's jaw tightened. "Merrick doesn't do anything without calculation. What did he want?" "Information, I think. He asked about you, about our supposed family connection." She met Jack's eyes worriedly. "Sheriff Mills says he's been asking questions around town too." "Damn." Jack paced the small room, careful not to wake Emma. "This complicates things." "Jack, what if he discovers who I really am, that I witnessed the stagecoach robbery?" "If he's connected to the Daltons somehow, Merrick's many things, but I don't think he's in league with outlaws," Jack interrupted. "More likely he's just trying to find leverage against me, and you're convenient." He stopped pacing, his expression resolute. "We need to change our approach." "How so?" Jack met her gaze steadily. "The school board expects a respectable teacher. Merrick's questions threaten that expectation." He took a deep breath. "I think we should marry." Olivia stared at him, certain she'd misheard. "I beg your pardon, not for real," Jack clarified hastily. "Just on paper. Merrick can question a supposed family connection, but a marriage certificate would be harder to dispute, and as my wife, you'd have protection of my name in a more official capacity." "A marriage of convenience," Olivia said slowly, trying to process his suggestion. "Exactly." Jack nodded. "Once the Dalton threat is past and you're established in town, we could quietly dissolve it, or claim widowhood later if that's easier for you." The practical arrangement made logical sense, yet something in Olivia rebelled against its cold calculation. In the past weeks, she'd begun to cherish Jack's rare smiles, to look forward to their evening conversations, to imagine possibilities beyond mere survival. This proposition reduced their growing connection to a tactical maneuver. "I need time to consider this," she said finally. "It's not a decision to make hastily," Jack nodded, accepting her hesitation. "Of course, but Olivia," his use of her first name sent warmth through her. "Merrick won't stop digging, and if the Daltons learn you survived to identify them." "I understand the risks," she assured him. "I'll give you my answer tomorrow." After Jack departed, Olivia sat beside Emma's bed watching her peaceful slumber. A marriage of convenience. The phrase echoed in her mind, stirring complicated emotions. In Boston, she'd received 2 proposals before Charlotte's invitation west, both from suitable gentlemen who offered security and respectability. She declined both, unwilling to settle for marriages devoid of genuine affection. Yet here she was, considering exactly such an arrangement with Jack Xavier. A man she barely knew, whose life and temperament were as foreign to her Boston upbringing as the Montana landscape itself. But when she tried to imagine declining his offer, returning to the original plan of living alone above the schoolhouse, an unexpected hollowness opened within her. Somehow, in the midst of danger and displacement, Jack's steady presence had become a cornerstone of her new reality. His ranch, despite its rustic simplicity, had begun to feel like home in a way her Boston boarding house never had, and there was Emma to consider. The baby deserved stability, safety, and eventually, a father figure. Jack, for all his gruff exterior, had shown genuine tenderness toward the child, a tenderness Olivia found increasingly endearing. By morning, her decision was made. She dressed carefully in her best gown, a deep blue calico that brought out the color of her eyes, and arranged to meet Jack at the small church on the edge of town. Pastor Wilson asked few questions, accustomed to the practical nature of frontier marriages, and by noon, Olivia Montgomery became Mrs. Jack Xavier on paper, with Sheriff Mills and his wife serving as witnesses. "It's done," Jack said as they emerged from the church into the bright afternoon sunlight. "Should put a stop to Merrick's questions, at least." Olivia nodded, fingering the simple gold band Jack had somehow produced for the ceremony. "What happens now? We make it look convincing." Jack offered his arm. "Starting with moving your things from the hotel to my ranch. A new bride wouldn't stay in town while her husband lives 5 miles away." The news of their marriage spread through Silverdale like wildfire, generating precisely the mixed reaction Jack had predicted: surprise, speculation, and ultimately acceptance. Marshall Merrick's face, when they encountered him outside the general store, registered momentary shock before settling into calculating assessment. "Congratulations are in order, I see," he said smoothly, though his eyes remained cold. "Rather sudden, isn't it?" "When you know," Jack replied evenly, his hand protective at the small of Olivia's back. Merrick's gaze lingered on Olivia. "Indeed. Well, Mrs. Xavier, I trust this development won't affect your commitment to our school." "Not at all," Olivia assured him. "I'm looking forward to beginning the term next week." "Excellent." Merrick tipped his hat. "I'll see you both at the town social Saturday, I presume. A new marriage should be properly celebrated." As he walked away, Olivia felt Jack's tension beside her. "He's suspicious," she whispered. "Let him be," Jack replied. "He can't prove anything, and no one in town will side with him over the new schoolteacher and her husband." The return to Jack's ranch that afternoon carried strange significance. Though Olivia had lived there before, she arrived now with a different status wife, even if in name only. Henry greeted them with knowing winks that made Olivia blush, having clearly been informed of the arrangement's practical nature, but choosing to treat it as a genuine love match. Jack carried her trunk to the main bedroom. His bedroom then stood awkwardly in the doorway. "I'll take the spare room," he said. "You and Emma should have the better space." "Jack," Olivia began uncertainly, "this arrangement, it's temporary, yes, until the danger passes." Something flickered in his eyes. "That was the agreement. And afterward, when I'm established as the teacher and the Daltons are caught," Jack studied her face. "What do you want to happen afterward, Olivia?" It was a fair question, one she wasn't prepared to answer fully. Her feelings for Jack had grown increasingly complex, gratitude mingled with respect, and beneath it all, a warm current of attraction she couldn't deny. "I don't know yet," she admitted honestly. "This has all happened so quickly." Jack nodded, accepting her uncertainty. "We have time to figure it out." He hesitated, then added quietly, "I won't hold you to anything you don't freely choose, Olivia. You have my word on that." The sincerity in his voice touched her deeply. "Thank you, Jack." The days that followed established a new rhythm to their shared life. Jack continued his ranch work, while Olivia finalized preparations for the school term and cared for Emma. They ate meals together, shared the evening chores, and gradually adjusted to the intimate dance of two people occupying the same space with heightened awareness of each other's movements. The pretense of marriage required small performances when in town: Jack's hand at Olivia's elbow, her adjustment of his collar, the casual use of first names and terms of endearment. Yet increasingly, these gestures continued in private, no audience requiring the charade. Jack would absently touch Olivia's shoulder as he passed behind her chair, or she would straighten his hat before he left for the day, neither acknowledging the growing comfort in these simple intimacies. The town social arrived Olivia's first public appearance as Mrs. Xavier. She dressed with particular care in a green gown Henry had helped alter from Jack's sister's clothes, arranging her hair in soft curls around her face. Emma, too, wore her best dress, a confection of white lawn with tiny blue ribbons. Jack appeared in the doorway as Olivia finished dressing, and the appreciation in his eyes made her cheeks warm. He wore a clean black coat over a pressed shirt, his hair neatly combed, looking so handsome that Olivia's breath caught momentarily. "You look beautiful," he said simply. "As do you," she returned, smoothing his lapel in what had become a familiar gesture. "Very distinguished." The social was held in the town hall, decorated with bunting and wildflowers. A small band played lively tunes in the corner, while tables laden with food lined the walls. Olivia, with Emma on her hip, found herself the center of attention as women crowded around to congratulate her on her marriage and welcome her as the new teacher. "Such a sweet baby," Martha Warren, the merchant's wife, cooed. "She has your eyes, my dear." Olivia smiled, not correcting the assumption that Emma was her natural child. The fiction was easier than explaining the truth, and in her heart, Emma had truly become hers in every way that mattered. Jack stood nearby, enduring good-natured ribbing from the local ranchers about his unexpected matrimony. Though visibly uncomfortable with the attention, he played his part admirably, keeping Olivia in his sightline and occasionally joining her side when Marshal Merrick or other potential threats approached. "May I have this dance, Mrs. Xavier?" Jack asked formally as the band struck up a waltz. Olivia glanced at Emma, but Martha Warren immediately offered, "I'll hold the little one. You young people enjoy yourselves." In Jack's arms on the dance floor, Olivia discovered another surprise. He moved with unexpected grace, guiding her confidently through the steps. "You dance beautifully," she remarked. "I wouldn't have guessed." A hint of a smile touched his lips. "My mother insisted both her sons learn proper manners, even on the frontier, said we'd never find decent wives otherwise." "She was wise," Olivia returned, enjoying the warm pressure of his hand at her waist. "Though I'm not sure I qualify as a decent wife given the circumstances of our arrangement." Jack's eyes held hers. "You qualify in every way that matters, Olivia." The simple statement, delivered with such quiet sincerity, made her heart flutter. Before she could respond, however, the music ended and Marshal Merrick appeared at their side. "May I claim the next dance, Mrs. Xavier?" Town tradition grants newcomers the opportunity to meet all the leading citizens. Jack tensed beside her, but Olivia squeezed his arm reassuringly. "Of course, Mr. Merrick, if my husband doesn't object." "Why would I object?" Jack replied evenly, though his eyes communicated caution as he surrendered Olivia to Merrick's waiting arms. Merrick proved a competent if somewhat stiff dance partner, maintaining a proper distance between them as they circled the floor. "You're settling into married life well," he observed. "Rather a change from Boston society, I imagine." "Change can be refreshing," Olivia replied diplomatically. "Indeed. Though I confess myself surprised by Xavier's sudden transformation from confirmed bachelor to family man." Merrick's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Especially given certain rumors about his past." Olivia maintained a pleasant expression despite her internal alarm. "What rumors might those be, Mr. Merrick?" "Oh, nothing substantial, just whispers about his war record. Men who served with him say he wasn't the hero type." Merrick's voice dropped confidentially. "Some suggest he abandoned his position at Gettysburg, left his brother to die while he saved himself." The vicious lie made Olivia's blood run cold. "I find that difficult to believe," she managed evenly. History is written by survivors, Mrs. Xavier. Merrick guided her through a turn. One wonders what other aspects of his story might be embellished. My husband doesn't embroider the truth, Mr. Merrick. Olivia's voice hardened. Unlike some who spread malicious gossip to further their own interests. Merrick's grip tightened briefly on her hand. Careful, Mrs. Xavier. New arrivals in Silverdale would do well to understand the town's power structure before choosing sides. I believe I understand it perfectly, Olivia returned, relief flooding her as the music ended. Thank you for the dance, Mr. Merrick. If you'll excuse me, I should check on my daughter. She returned to Jack's side, finding him in conversation with Sheriff Mills. The concerned look on both men's faces told her something was wrong before Jack turned to her. We need to leave, he said quietly. Sheriffs had word the Daltons were spotted 10 miles north this morning. Fear clutched at Olivia's heart. Are they coming here? Mills shook his head. Can't say for certain, madam, but caution seems wise. They collected Emma from Martha Warren with apologetic smiles and hurried outside to their wagon. Jack helped Olivia and the baby up, then climbed beside them, his expression grim as he set the horses in motion. Merrick was asking about your war record, Olivia said once they were beyond the town limits. Implying terrible things about Gettysburg, Jack's jaw tightened. Not surprised, he's been trying to discredit me for years. But why? What does he gain by spreading such vicious lies? My land borders his mining claims, Jack explained. He's convinced there's silver on my property and wants access. He glanced at her. What exactly did he say? Olivia hesitated, reluctant to repeat the cruel accusation. Tell me, Jack insisted. He suggested you abandoned your position at Gettysburg, that you left Thomas to die. She touched his arm gently. I didn't believe it for a moment, Jack. Pain flashed across his features, quickly masked. Some did. After Thomas died, I was, not myself, couldn't bear to stay with my unit. Requested transfer to the Western campaigns. He stared ahead at the darkening road. Some called it cowardice, running from memories maybe, but I never abandoned my post while men depended on me. I know that, Olivia said firmly. Anyone who knows you would know that. Jack's hand covered hers briefly, a silent acknowledgement of her faith in him. They rode in companionable silence until the ranch appeared ahead, lamplight glowing from the cabin windows. Henry's still up, Jack noted, tension returning to his voice. Not like him this late. As they approached, Henry emerged from the cabin, rifle in hand. Glad you're back, he called. Had visitors earlier. Jack immediately reined in the horses. What kind of visitors? 3 men, asking after a woman and baby, Henry reported grimly. Said they were relatives looking for a widow traveling west. Didn't like the look of them, so I said we hadn't seen anyone matching that description. Olivia clutched Emma tighter, blood running cold. The Daltons, she whispered. Jack nodded once, face set in hard lines. They're tracking you. He turned to Henry. Did they believe you? The old man shrugged. Seemed to, rode off toward town. His weathered face creased with concern, but they could circle back once they find no trace there. We need to leave, Jack decided, already turning the wagon. Tonight. They know about the ranch now, it's not safe. Where will we go? Olivia asked, heart pounding. My line cabin in the high country, Jack replied. It's well hidden, defensible. We can stay there until the Daltons move on or are captured. Henry was already moving toward the barn. I'll pack supplies, he called over his shoulder. Food, ammunition, medicines, give me 10 minutes. Jack jumped down from the wagon, helping Olivia and Emma inside the cabin. Pack only what you can't do without, he instructed. Warm clothes for both of you. We'll be at higher elevation, nights get cold even in summer. Olivia moved swiftly, methodically gathering essentials while her mind raced with fear. The Daltons had found them. How? Had someone in town revealed their whereabouts? Was Merrick involved somehow? Within 20 minutes, they were ready, the wagon loaded with supplies. Jack's best horses harnessed and nervous in the growing darkness. Henry would remain behind to maintain appearances at the ranch, with strict instructions to ride for the sheriff if the Daltons returned. "Stay safe, you three," Henry said gruffly as they prepared to leave. "That little gal deserves her chance in this world." Jack clasped the old man's shoulder. "We'll send word when we can. If anything happens, nothing's going to happen," Henry interrupted firmly. "You just keep them safe, Jack. The rest will sort itself out." The journey into the mountains was grueling, especially for Emma, who protested the jostling wagon and unfamiliar darkness with increasingly distressed cries. Olivia did her best to comfort the baby, singing softly and offering what small comforts she could manage. Jack drove the team with focused intensity, taking barely visible trails that wound ever upward into dense pine forests. Twice he stopped abruptly, listening intently before proceeding, though Olivia heard nothing beyond the natural sounds of the wilderness. "How much farther?" she asked quietly after what seemed hours of travel. "Another mile," Jack replied. "Cabins just below the ridge, built it my first year here as a hunting lodge and winter shelter for stranded cattle." He glanced at her apologetically. "It's primitive. One room, stone fireplace, not much else." "It sounds perfect," Olivia assured him, meaning it. Shelter, safety, and Jack's protection were all she required. The cabin appeared suddenly in a small clearing, a sturdy structure of rough-hewn logs with a stone chimney and small porch. Jack helped Olivia and Emma inside before tending to the horses, securing them in a lean-to beside the cabin. Inside was indeed primitive but clean, with a stone fireplace, wooden table and chairs, and a narrow bed in one corner. Jack quickly lit a lamp and started a fire, the warm glow dispelling the chill mountain air. "You and Emma take the bed," he said, arranging their supplies along one wall. "I'll make a pallet by the fire." Exhaustion overcame Emma soon after feeding, and Olivia laid her gently on the bed, surrounding her with blankets to prevent rolling. Only then did she allow herself to acknowledge the fear that had been building since Henry's news. "They won't stop looking, will they?" she asked softly, joining Jack by the fire. He met her gaze honestly. "Not likely. Daltons don't leave witnesses." "What if they find us here?" "They won't," Jack assured her, though his hand rested on his holstered pistol. "Few people know about this place, and fewer still could find it in the dark." Olivia nodded, trying to draw comfort from his confidence. They sat in silence for a while, the crackling fire and Emma's soft breathing the only sounds in the isolated cabin. "I'm sorry," Olivia said finally, "for bringing this danger to your door. You had a peaceful life before I literally stood in your path." Jack studied her face in the firelight. "Peace isn't always the same as living, Olivia." He hesitated, then added quietly, "These past weeks with you and Emma, I've felt more alive than I have in years." The simple admission, delivered in his straightforward manner, made Olivia's breath catch. "Jack," he shook his head slightly, "you don't need to say anything. I know our arrangement is temporary, practical. But I wanted you to know that whatever happens, I don't regret a moment of it." Impulsively, Olivia reached for his hand, lacing her fingers through his. "Nor do I." Something shifted between them in that moment, acknowledgement of feelings that had been growing steadily beneath the practical surface of their arrangement. Jack's eyes dropped to her lips, and Olivia felt herself leaning forward slightly, drawn by an invisible force. A sharp crack outside shattered the moment. Jack was on his feet instantly, pistol drawn. "Stay down," he whispered, extinguishing the lamp with one quick movement. The cabin plunged into darkness save for the low glow of the fire. Another crack, a twig breaking under a heavy foot. Someone was approaching the cabin. Jack moved silently to the window, peering cautiously through a gap in the shutters. His body tensed, confirming Olivia's worst fears. "How many?" she breathed. "Two that I can see," he murmured. "Likely the third is circling behind." Terror gripped Olivia as she moved to the bed, gathering the sleeping Emma into her arms. "What do we do?" Jack's mind worked rapidly, assessing options. The cabin had only one door, two windows. They were effectively trapped, but so were their attackers in the open clearing, visible against the moonlit night. "Take Emma into the root cellar," he instructed, moving a rug to reveal a trapdoor. It's shallow, but will shield you both. Don't come out until I call for you, no matter what you hear." "Understand," Olivia nodded, clutching Emma tightly as Jack lifted the trapdoor. The cellar below was little more than a shallow pit lined with stone, but it would provide some protection from bullets. "Jack," she whispered as he prepared to close the trapdoor over them, "I love you." The words emerged unbidden, surprising them both with their simple truth. Jack's eyes widened momentarily, then softened. "I love you too, Olivia. Have since you stood in that road with Emma on your hip." He bent quickly, pressing a fierce kiss to her lips before closing the trapdoor. "Now stay quiet." In the darkness of the cellar, Olivia held Emma close, the baby miraculously remaining asleep despite the tension in her guardian's body. Above, she heard Jack moving furniture, presumably creating barriers against the windows and door. Then silence fell, broken only by distant owl calls and the wind in the pines. Minutes stretched endlessly. Olivia strained to hear any sound of approach or confrontation, her heart pounding so loudly she feared it might wake Emma. When the first gunshot cracked through the night, she had to stifle a cry against her palm. More shots followed, 3, 4, 5 in rapid succession. A man's shout, then another volley. The sound of breaking glass, heavy footsteps on the cabin floor above. Emma stirred against Olivia's chest, whimpering softly at the disturbance. "Hush, sweet girl," Olivia whispered, tears streaming down her face as she rocked the baby gently. "Hush now." Above, a tremendous crash as if furniture had been overturned. A cry of pain that might have been Jack's voice, though distorted by distance and the wooden barrier between them. Then more gunfire closer now, followed by an eerie silence. Olivia held her breath, straining to hear any indication of what had happened. Had Jack prevailed? Or were the Daltons now searching the cabin for her and Emma? The uncertainty was unbearable, yet she remained frozen in place, honoring Jack's final instruction to stay hidden regardless of what she heard. Footsteps crossed the floor above, slow, heavy, deliberate. They paused directly over the trapdoor. "Olivia," Jack's voice strained but unmistakable, "it's safe now." Relief flooded through her, but caution kept her silent. What if the Daltons had forced Jack to call for her? "Olivia, it's over," Jack called again. "I need your help, I've been hit." The last words galvanized her into action. Olivia shifted Emma to one arm and pushed upward on the trapdoor. It lifted easily, revealing Jack standing above, one hand pressed to his bleeding shoulder, his face pale in the rekindled firelight. "Thank God," he breathed, helping her up with his good arm. "Are you both all right?" "We're unharmed," Olivia assured him, eyes widening as she took in the cabin's disarray and the motionless form by the door. "Jack, your shoulder," "Bullet grazed it," he dismissed, though blood seeped between his fingers. "Could have been worse." Olivia placed Emma carefully on the bed, surrounding her with pillows before turning her attention to Jack's wound. "Sit," she instructed, guiding him to a chair. "Let me see." As she helped him remove his shirt, Olivia surveyed the cabin more thoroughly. One man lay dead by the door, a rough-looking character with a week's growth of beard. "The others," "One ran," Jack explained, wincing as Olivia examined his shoulder. "The third never made it to the cabin." "I got him when he broke cover," he nodded toward the window. "He's out by the woodpile." "You're certain the one who ran won't return with reinforcements?" Olivia asked, washing his wound with water from a canteen. "He was hit pretty bad, doubt he'll get far." Jack's eyes held hers steadily. "But we should move at first light, just to be safe. Head into town where Sheriff Mills can provide protection until this is truly over." Olivia nodded, bandaging his shoulder with strips torn from a clean shirt. "I meant what I said before, Jack, about loving you." Jack reached up with his good hand, cupping her cheek tenderly. "I meant it too. Have for a while now, just didn't think a Boston schoolteacher would want a life with a broken-down cowboy." "You're not broken," Olivia corrected firmly. "You're the strongest, most honorable man I've ever known." She leaned into his touch. "And if this Boston schoolteacher has any say in the matter, our marriage of convenience just became very real indeed." The smile that transformed Jack's face was worth every moment of fear and uncertainty they'd endured. He pulled her gently into his lap, mindful of his injured shoulder, and kissed her properly, a tender, thorough exploration that promised countless such moments in their future. Emma's soft cry from the bed eventually broke them apart, both laughing softly at the baby's perfect timing. "She'll need feeding," Olivia said, rising reluctantly, "and you need rest to heal." Jack nodded, though his eyes remained fixed on Olivia with new openness. "Tomorrow we ride for town," he said. "End this Dalton business once and for all so we can start our life together properly." Dawn brought a chill mist that shrouded the mountains in ethereal beauty. Jack, despite his injury, insisted on burying the dead outlaws away from the cabin, a grim task that Olivia knew weighed heavily on his conscience, regardless of the necessity that had driven his actions. They left as the sun broke through the mist, Jack driving the wagon one-handed while Olivia kept Emma content with songs and small games. The journey downward proved easier than their ascent, though every unexpected sound had them both tensing in anticipation of ambush. None came. By midday, they reached the outskirts of Silverdale, proceeding directly to the sheriff's office where Mills greeted them with evident relief. "Thank the Lord you're all right," he exclaimed, ushering them inside. "Henry rode in at dawn with news the Daltons had tracked you to the ranch. I was organizing a search party when word came that Ezra Dalton himself had been captured." "Captured?" Jack repeated, disbelief evident in his voice. "How?" "Stumbled into the mining camp half dead from blood loss," Mills explained. "Doctor patched him up enough to transport, but he won't last long without proper medical attention." The sheriff's eyes hardened. "Before they take him to Helena for that, thought you might want to confirm it's really him, Mrs. Xavier, given what you witnessed at the stagecoach." Olivia swallowed hard, clutching Emma closer. "Yes, I should do that." The jail cell contained a pale, sweat-soaked man whose murderous glare fixed on Olivia the moment she entered. Despite his weakened state, Ezra Dalton radiated malevolence, the distinctive scar across his cheek confirming his identity beyond doubt. "That's him," Olivia confirmed quietly. "The one who led the stagecoach robbery, who killed my sister and brother-in-law." Dalton's eyes narrowed. "Should have searched them bodies better," he rasped. "Didn't know there was a woman and baby missing." "Well, now you do," Sheriff Mills replied coldly. "And Mrs. Xavier's testimony will ensure you hang Dalton, that is, if you don't bleed out first." Outside the jail in the bright Montana sunshine, Olivia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "It's over," she whispered, half to herself. Jack's arm encircled her waist. "It is. No more hiding, no more fear." He glanced down at Emma, who smiled toothlessly up at him. "Time to start living that life we talked about." Word of their ordeal spread quickly through Silverdale, transforming Jack and Olivia from objects of curiosity to minor celebrities. The town rallied around them, offering support, congratulations, and not a little admiration for Jack's defense against the notorious outlaws. Even Marshal Merrick, upon learning the truth of Olivia's identity and her connection to the Dalton gang, modified his antagonism somewhat, though Jack suspected the man's fundamental nature remained unchanged. "He'll find other ways to come after my land," Jack predicted as they settled into their routine. "But with the Dalton threat eliminated, we can face whatever comes next together." That next began with the start of the school term, Olivia taking her place as Silverdale's teacher with Emma contentedly playing in a cradle beside her desk. The children adored their new teacher and her baby, while the parents appreciated Olivia's Eastern education and gentle discipline. Jack, meanwhile, expanded his ranching operations, hiring 2 young cowboys to manage the growing herd while he focused on improving the homestead. A larger bedroom was added to accommodate their family, and the original cabin was expanded with a proper kitchen and dining room. Henry remained with them, becoming a beloved uncle figure to Emma, who began taking her first steps under his patient guidance. His joy at the family's happiness was evident in the spring returning to his step, and the songs he sang while working around the ranch. As summer turned to autumn, and autumn to the crisp chill of Montana winter, Olivia and Jack's marriage deepened from its utilitarian beginnings into a partnership of genuine love and respect. Their initial passion matured into comfortable intimacy, each discovering in the other complementary strengths and shared values that made their union stronger than either had imagined possible. Christmas brought heavy snows and Olivia's joyful announcement that their family would grow by one the following summer news that rendered Jack momentarily speechless before he swept his wife into a careful embrace, mindful of Emma toddling nearby. "Are you happy?" he asked that night, holding Olivia close beneath warm quilts as wind howled outside their snug cabin. "Completely," she assured him, guiding his hand to rest on her still flat stomach. "Are you?" Jack Xavier, once solitary cowboy and reluctant rescuer, smiled in the darkness. "More than I ever thought possible," he admitted. "Who would have guessed that finding a woman standing in the road with a baby on her hip would lead to all this?" "Providence," Olivia suggested, nestling closer. "Or perhaps just good fortune that you were the kind of man who wouldn't ride past someone in need." "Either way," Jack murmured against her hair, "I'm grateful every day that I told you you'd ride beside me from then on." "As am I, my love," Olivia whispered. "As am I." 5 years later, the schoolyard bustled with activity as children raced about during their midday recess. Olivia Xavier stood on the steps, one hand shading her eyes as she surveyed the organized chaos of her domain. Her gaze lingered on 5-year-old Emma, now a spirited girl with golden curls, who was teaching a complicated clapping game to her younger brother Thomas. At 3, Thomas Xavier was the image of his father's serious eyes and a determined set to his jaw that could only have come from Jack. But he had Olivia's smile, especially when coaxed by his adoring big sister. The sound of approaching hoofbeats drew Olivia's attention to the road, where Jack appeared on his favorite mare, their 6-month-old daughter Rose secured in a special carrier against his chest. The sight of her husband, still handsome in his weathered way, still capable of making her heart quicken after 5 years of marriage, brought a smile to Olivia's face. "Mrs. Xavier," he called, dismounting carefully before untying Rose from her carrier. "Thought these ladies might appreciate some fresh air and a visit with their mama." Olivia descended the steps, accepting baby Rose with a kiss for both her daughter and her husband. "A welcome surprise," she assured him. "Though I suspect there's more to this visit than simply delivering our daughter." Jack's eyes twinkled. "Caught me. Henry's made apple pie, and I couldn't face his disappointment if you and the children didn't come home promptly at 4 to enjoy it while it's warm." "Heaven forbid we disappoint Henry," Olivia laughed, shifting Rose to her hip in a gesture that echoed their very first meeting. "Tell him we'll be home directly after dismissal." Emma and Thomas had noticed their father's arrival and came running across the yard. Jack knelt to receive their enthusiastic embraces, listening with exaggerated seriousness to Thomas's account of counting to 20 and Emma's description of the story she'd written that morning. Olivia watched them together, her heart full to bursting with gratitude for this life she'd never imagined possible when she'd stood desperate and alone on that dusty Montana road. From tragedy had come unexpected joy, from danger, the most profound safety she'd ever known in Jack's steadfast love. "Penny for your thoughts, Mrs. Xavier?" Jack asked, rising with Thomas on his shoulders. "Just counting my blessings," Olivia replied, adjusting Rose on her hip. And remembering how it all began, Jack's expression softened with understanding. "With a woman standing in the road with a baby on her hip," he recalled, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind Olivia's ear. "The bravest, most beautiful sight I'd ever seen. And a cowboy who said I'd ride beside him from then on," Olivia completed, leaning into his touch. "The best promise anyone ever made to me, and kept," Jack reminded her with a smile. "Every day since." The school bell rang, signaling the end of recess. Jack lifted Emma for a quick hug before setting her down to run back to her classmates. He took Thomas from his shoulders, returning him to the ground with instructions to mind his mother and sister. 4 o'clock, Jack confirmed, mounting his horse. Henry's pie waits for no man. We'll be home, Olivia promised, bouncing Rose gently, where we belong. As Jack rode away, Olivia Xavier gathered her students with practiced ease, baby Rose content on her hip. The life she'd built in Silverdale teacher, wife, mother fit her more comfortably than the restricted existence she'd known in Boston. Here, she had purpose, community, and most importantly, love in abundance. That evening, as their family gathered around the kitchen table in the home Jack had expanded yet again to accommodate their growing numbers, Olivia raised her glass in a toast. To unexpected journeys, she offered, and to the roads that lead us home. Jack met her gaze across the table, love evident in his eyes as he added, and to riding side by side through whatever comes. Side by side, Olivia agreed softly, from now on and always.